All right, we have a guest in the studio, Professor Sani Abubakar Mashi. He's a former Director General, NIMET, and he's also a lecturer, Department of Geography from University of Abuja. Thank you, Prof, for joining us on Weekend Vibe.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Now, Prof, you've been following the whole reports we've shown earlier, and also the weather pattern, which has been unusual, especially for we here in Abuja. Now you can imagine what people in the northern region are experiencing. What do you make of this unusual pattern?
So thank you very much. What is actually happening, or what we are seeing right now prevailing in the country, Abuja and other areas, is a manifestation of the global changes that we have been witnessing in climate. Principally, what people need to know is we human beings that are occupying the Earth's surface, we play a very important role in modifying the behavior of the atmosphere. And by implication, we play a very important role in defining how the climate, the nature of the climate will be. How this thing happens is very, very simple. What the heat that we encounter over the Earth's surface is actually from the Earth's surface, not directly from the sun. The reason is very simple. When sun is shining, the energy that is coming from the sun, they call it short wave. Okay. And God designed it in such a way that to be too much for human beings. And therefore, it is the heat that leaves the Earth's surface after the short wave has come and hit the Earth's surface. The one that is going back is what is trapped in the atmosphere and sent back. So through that way, the intensity of the heat is moderated so that the Earth will be exposed to the heat that it can accommodate, that we are comfortable with. So the implication of this scenario is that once if we try to undertake some activities on the Earth's surface that will increase the amount of heat, that is the long wave radiation that is leaving the Earth's surface, it means we are contributing to the amount of heat that is accumulating in the lower layer of the atmosphere. So, and since it is that heat that is coming back, so it means if we undertake some activities that increase that heat, we are increasing the amount of heat that is trapped in the lower layer of the atmosphere. So which means more heat that is trapped and more heat will come to the Earth's surface.
So Prof, if I get you correctly, you're a geography lecturer. Let's go back to my my school days in geography. Yes. The ozone layer depleting has been a talk for a very long time. Would you link it to that based on the heat waves you're describing?
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying. Okay. So this accumulation of heat, increased accumulation of heat in the lower layer of the atmosphere cause a lot of problems. There is a layer, there is an ozone layer. It is helping, particularly in preventing some of the excess heat from being trapped on the Earth's surface. So what is happening here now is through our activities now, we are releasing some gases into the atmosphere. They call it greenhouse gases. They go and increase the concentration in the lower layer of atmosphere, leading to increased heat, and they had to deplete the ozone layer that is also supposed to be protecting us. Yes. So through this way, we are now increasing the intensity of heat that is available in the atmosphere and therefore on the Earth's surface. So the consequences of this, it means we are now promoting increasing heat over the Earth's surface and increasing temperature. And this increasing heat and increasing atmosphere is what is responsible for the situation we are now seeing. How does it happen? Is very, very simple. In Nigeria, we have 12 months. Over about 78 months, there is the air that is blowing over the country is called tropical maritime, which is moist, which is from the coastal area, and this is what is bringing rain. And then for the next 4 months, that is November, December, January to February, we have another air which is dry coming from the desert and which is known as tropical continental. So what happens here now is the movement of the air between these two air masses vary from one season to another. During the 4 months, which I'm saying now, it is mostly the movement is from the tropical continental towards the southern part of the country. So which means during that time, the temperatures will be high, but the air will be dry. So that is why we tend to have harmattan that is blowing, and because it is from Sahara, it is carrying some particles which give us that harmattan. So why this movement happen is because during these 4 months, the temperature in the Sahara, that is the northern part of the country, towards the Sahara, tends to be higher than what you have in the southern part. So therefore, this is what is creating the gradient. So as a result of this changes of, in the temperature. Now the gradient is being altered. Gradient means it is from high to the low. So now the gradient is becoming gentler. So it means there is no room for the Harmattan to move. What people need to know is that 2023, 2024, 2025, records of World Meteorological Organization have shown that since human beings started recording temperature in 1880, about 150 years ago, these 3 years I mentioned, 2023, 24, and 25, they have now been seen, they are the most hottest years in history. The implication, it means the heat is just increasing, and it is now reaching very, very critical level.
Okay, Prof.
That is the problem.
If I come in there, I don't want us to look at the consequences, not to create a scare. We're already seeing what is happening. You can only imagine it. Let's look at mitigation, aspect of this pattern we're experiencing, especially with NIMET's prediction and what you're saying about the 3 years down the line till now, it's increasing. And experts have attributed some of this to human activities we saw from the report. Yeah. How do we begin mitigation?
Certainly. So, like I said from my background, since it is the amount of activities we are undertaking over the atmosphere that is increasing this heat, then it means if we want to be safe, if we don't want to see the unusual thing we are seeing now, it means we have to moderate the kind of activities we are doing. And how do we do that is very simple. Whatever you are doing, there is always an alternative to eat. Yeah. If you have money, you eat good food. If you don't have money, you manage, you eat small or less sophisticated kind of food. That is how life is. The activities we are undertaking, industrial activities, burning things on the earth surface, using vehicles that are emitting some gases, there are always ways we can do that. Fortunately, the technology is moving now. We have what we call clean technology. Even the vehicles we are using, if you cannot buy a brand new vehicle that will not emit the smoke, you can go for a vehicle that work on an alternative energy, for instance. Or if, for instance, in Abuja, 100,000 cars fly the roads per day, we can now come up with a strategy so that we decrease the number of the vehicles that are there, so that maybe we can introduce mass pattern of movement, maybe buses or whatever, that can be comparing people from different parts of the territory to another. To reduce what we are reducing. Or if we must burn trees in order maybe to cook or whatever, we can make use of stoves and other cooking methods that work on alternative clean energy. So to do this way, we can reduce the amount of heat we are now releasing over the surface, which will now go and aggravate the problem. So it's a very, very simple thing, which means it's something that can be done at individual level, it's something that can be at the level of the community, and it's something that can be low, and even at institutional level, that is at the level of the government. So it's something that can be done.
You know, Prof, when you said it's very simple, I was just thinking in my head, is it really simple to control, especially when you're regulating policies and ensuring implementation? That can be tasking.
You see, what is important?
Okay, Prof, we'll pick up. Let's take a break. It's due. We'll be back. Stay tuned. All right, we still have Prof. Prof, we've seen Lagos situation, we've seen other states. So before we went on that break, you were going to speak on measures that has been taken in the past and still taken. We have the National Climate Action Plan. We've seen ambitious climate action plans over the years, not just even now, to promote clean energy, emission control and all of that. But yet we are where we are. Why?
Part of the problem is the sharing of responsibilities. Like I said earlier, the responsibilities can be discharged at various levels, individual level, community level, state level, even at a national level, and just by individuals or even by institutional bodies. So what is happening, there is actually a gap. So much responsibility is now allowed on particularly the government, meaning things that we should do at individual levels. A number of us are not doing it, and it is possible. Part of the thing is the policy may be there, which is a very good one. We have the climate action plan of the country, which has addressed to a very large extent a lot of the problems we have been experiencing now, and including the measures that are supposed to be taken. So the thing is, what needs to be done here now is we need to go back to the basics, so that, like I said, individual, we have to change the way we are doing. Community should watch over what is happening within the community, and so on. It continues at that level, and you upscale it from the lowest level to the highest level within the country. That was the reason why I was saying it is easy. When you look at a number of countries, they are taking these matters head on, and you can see that it is not just the government that is pushing from up down, but like initiatives ranging from the community. Quite sure incentives are needed. We need to incentivize individuals and communities to do that. If you look at what is happening in China, China used to be, for long, it's regarded as one of the most countries that is associated with pollution due to the high level of industrialization that is going on in the country. So they discovered that part of the reason is the automobiles are contributing a very large extent, moving within the area. So what they have done is they are now moving, pacing out vehicles, motorcycles that are even relying on the hydrocarbon that is on fuel. So they are now subsidizing to deliberate policy. So it is very, very cheap for you to go and buy electric bike, to buy electric vehicle compared to the petrol. That is why even Chinese now they are even get to read, because you don't even need that one, because there are cheaper alternatives. This is the kind of thing that I'm saying. The alternative, if they are provided, people will take them up, decide on them, and then you go for them. That's why I was saying it's a bit easy. Individuals, let's be committed. Community, let's be watching and ensure that things that should not be happening, they should not happen. If we see somebody in the community doing it, through convincing, through community engagement or whatever, talk to the people. So these are the things that is doing. It's like the responsibility people are allowing too much on the government to do. And
breaking it down in a very simpler form for communities to understand.
Exactly.
Because when you're telling them ozone layer, global warming, they don't understand it. So, Prof, we'll pick up with this conversation. Let's find out how Borno residents of Maiduguri are adjusting to the unusual January weather pattern. Let's get to hear from our correspondent there, Pauline Kujevana.
In Borno State, the 2025-2026 dry season feels different from the familiar Harmattan period traditionally experienced between November and February. Unlike the constantly cold mornings, dry air and heavy dust winds of previous years, this season has been marked by irregular temperature patterns.
We call this weather phenomenon mean latitude trough. You know, it's a system that moves from the west to the east. Southwesterlies, when moving interland, it come along with moisture. So some area close to the coast, we have rainfall. While some area that is interland, they may have here and there cloudiness.
The northeast is the one that brings Harmattan dry air, you know, hasty air and all this, and cooler air. But unfortunately this year, it seems completely different. You cannot even predict it. So it's a global issue.
In breathing or coughing, they excrete some microorganism. For that individual, it's a normal something. But for another individual, it's a new microorganism entirely.
As Borno State continues to adjust to the evolving seasonal conditions, experts are urging residents and farmers to stay informed through NAMED weather updates, adopt preventive health measures, and apply climate-smart agricultural practices to reduce the impact of the unsteady weather. In Maiduguri, Pauline Kujevana, NTA News.
All right, Prof, we've seen how Maiduguri people are trying to adjust, and you can only imagine the hazy condition there for people who live in that region. Let's look at the aspect of strengthening coordination, Prof, in the aspect of, prioritizing action plan. And I know you've been emphasizing it can be easy. So how do we strengthen coordination for effective implementation?
You see, the issue is that is where the government, the role of the government is very, very important here. What the government is supposed to do, since there are multiple layers that are supposed to be involved in undertaking the activities that can help in the mitigation, what the government therefore needs to do now is to provide the necessary condition, the necessary atmosphere that will allow the various players in the various segments of the chain I call it a chain because, like I said, from the lowest to the highest level. So make it possible. If there are barriers that are preventing some members of the chain, of the chain, maybe at the community, at individual level, at the state or whatever, private sector, public sector, and if there are barriers that are confronting them, try and see how you can get them eliminated. What I'm saying is very simple. We have always been emphasizing is that we can use clean technology in cooking, meaning we don't have to use firewood. So the fact of the matter, if the alternative energy that is there, that is available, if it is not within the reach of those that acquire it, then it means even if you have money to acquire, then it means you cannot acquire it. Or it may be there, but you may not have the resources to acquire it. How can you empower the people so that they can get it? We are not saying donate it to the individual, but look at the way people are living and see how can you create funding mechanisms that can enable them to get access to this funding. It can be loan, it can be grant, it can be any form of assistance. So this is what I'm trying to say. It is largely the government that can play this role. Besides the government also, there are other bodies, non-governmental bodies, faith-based organizations, for instance, can play a role. Religious bodies and other things that are there. We're in the political era. The political arrangements that we have in the country here now, they can play a role. Political parties, for instance, they are not just to go and campaign for a vote and other things. They can play a very, very active role in helping to see how they can get some of the barriers educated so that you don't just go to the people when you want to campaign for the votes. If there are needs, talk to the people so that try and see how you can get them engaged. So to reduce in essence, what I'm trying to say is all those that are in the various segment of the chain, they can now have to be mobilized so that effective linkages among them can be there. Once if you have the data, it means the coordination becomes very effective. So that's why I have always been emphasizing it is possible. Okay. And if you think you can win, then you can win.
Okay, Prof, let's... We know the federal government have taken bold moves, rather, to enter partnerships on climate financing and all of that. But let's tilt down to the sub-nationals, these regions where the climate action needs to be really domesticated. What would be your recommendation to state governments?
Honestly, particularly the local communities, the local governments, they need to be up and doing. What they need to know is that if the little money that they are having, they should spare a substantial part of the money towards addressing some of these challenges. If you give local government, I'm happy what the Mr. President has done is he has given directive to because there is even a Supreme Court ruling, the resources belonging to the local government should go directly to them. So this money, if they come now, let there be priorities, at least so that local communities, local governments now, they should invest a substantial part of their resources towards undertaking some of these measures, promoting the use of clean energy in whatever thing with that, whether in transportation, whether in cooking, or whether in industrial activities, small-scale processing, and whatever we are doing. If this can be done, meaning that the local communities now, local government, they should become and play very, very, very active role, rather than allowing everything, particularly to the federal government, to do that. If we can do that, I'm telling you, substantial progress can be made if the communities, local government in particular, can take up that matter.
So, Prof, very quickly, what would you advise individuals at their own level, because we are the ones bearing the brunt, right?
Yeah. You see, at individual, like I said at the possible, what thing we need to know is that whatever we are doing, there is always an alternative to it. Yeah. There are even better alternatives to it. If you are living in Kefi and coming to Abuja to work, you have a vehicle. If necessary, there could be an alternative for you. You can keep your vehicle and follow another vehicle. Through that way, you are helping. You must not ride your car to come, for instance. There are always, this is the kind of things. So which means especially where right atmosphere has been provided by particularly the enabler, that is the government that are supposed to promote a sound transportation policy. So if that is available.
We have the CNG initiative.
Yes, look at it, was a very good one. But you can see that that's why the CNG initiative, people will still want to ride their own. So let us modify our way of living. We must not come with our vehicles. We must not cook using the traditional way, maybe using the firewood and all that, the alternative stuff. So when we appreciate the fact that there are always alternatives, and those alternatives can be better than what we are doing, then it means we at the level of the individual, where you will see things will start getting change automatically.
The change we want to see is not in the climate, in the negative aspect, but in the positive. Let's hope that we continue to do the needful, and those in authority, key into the necessary initiative. Thank you so much, Professor.
Happy to be with you.
Professor Sani Abubakar Mashi. Thank you. He's the former Director General of NIMED and also a lecturer of geography in University of Abuja. Geography used to be one of my favorite subjects, Prof. Yes, I loved it.
It's never late. You can come back to it.
No. That's the way I am. All right,
Thank you. I'll see you again.
All right, Prof.